So I presented my recent game to one of my friends and he said, "Nice, but how is it related to you?" So I decided to make a new game inspired by one of my childhood games in which team members just shoot a ball at the opposite team. It's basically like this dodgeball game I played when I was a little bit younger, but it's in 3D and I want to make it 10 times cooler. So I started modeling a 3D character in Blender. And yes, I still use Blender 2.79 because I have a shitty computer and I can't use Unity and Blender 2.8 on it at the same time. So the idea here is to create kind of a low poly character using a technique called box modeling, which uses the subdivision modifier. So I made the head, the mouth, the nose, ears and eyes, then a simple material for the skin. Then I made simple hair still with the same modeling technique, and later on so I could change the hairstyle to make a different type of character. Then I started making the clothes as a separate mesh because I might add customization. So for this character I used a reference to make a sweatshirt to give him kind of a sport feel. I'm not good at animating, so I used Mixamo with all its cool animations. Then I created a new URP project in Unity because I need post-processing, especially the bloom override from the global volume. Then I imported all the animations I got from Mixamo and made an animation controller to manage all those animations. For example, this throwing animation to use when he throws the ball. I then added collision bounce and a rigid body to the ball with a physics material to make it bounce, just like this. So this is what should happen. Let's say the condition is met so the player picks the ball, he plays the animation and shoots at the frame where the ball is no more in his hand. To do that, I created a player script with references to the ball, position of the hand where the ball will be, and also the player's animator. Then in the void start, I set the references, and in the update, if you have the ball, it sticks to the hand and plays the throw animation. Then I made a public void function to actually throw the ball using its rigid body. And in the throwing animation, at the exact frame where the ball leaves the hand, I added an event with that public void function. Then I went back to Blender and made a simple dummy as a target for testing. I also modified the script because the ball was not in the correct rotation and position in the hands, and also I reset the velocity it had before the player picked it, and then changed the usage of gravity so that the ball starts falling only after it hits an object. So let's say the condition is met so he picks the ball and I click. He plays the train animation and shoots the ball. So let's see that again. Then in the animation controller, I made transitions for smooth changing of animation and trigger parameters to change animation. Then to play the animation from the script, I replaced this with what activates the trigger. But sometimes when shooting the ball, it instantly collided again and stayed in the hand. So I made a public float for wait time, disabled the collider when throwing the ball, used a coroutine to wait some seconds after throwing the ball before re-enabling the collider. And now the ball doesn't stick to the hand anymore. Now to give movement to the player, I used a character controller with a float variable for the speed, assigned the references in the void start, and then in the update I used the input.getAxis function to collect the input, then pass it to the character controller for movement. So now he moves using W, A, S and Z keys from the keyboard, but in the wrong direction because he's facing towards that way. So in the script, I changed this to vertical and then I changed this to the horizontal with a negative sign. And now he moves correctly with W, A, S, Z keys. Then as you can see, we need to make sure that he doesn't move when he shoots. For that, when the throwing animation starts and the collider gets disabled, I also disable the character controller so he can't move. Then sometime after throwing the ball, I re-enable the character controller so he can move again. So now he moves, stops moving to shoot, and then after shooting can move again. By the way, don't worry when you see the player slide like this, we will fix this with animations. So for the movement animations, I use an avatar mask on which only the legs are enabled. Then I created a new animation layer which uses that avatar mask and added the movement animations on that layer so that the legs only are animated, as you can see. I also modified the settings of the transitions and added parameters to control the transitions. I added more parameters and transitions and managed the parameters from the script to change from one transition to another. And now the animations are correctly applied to the player when he moves using W, A, S, D keys on the keyboard. But now he shoots like he's sick because the two animation layers are active at the same time. So I modified the script so that when I click, the second layer's weight is set to 0, that is disabled, and after throwing the ball, it gets back to 1, that is, enabled. It worked, but after shooting, he just snapped instantly to the other layer. To fix that, I used the function mathf.leb to smoothly change the value of the layer's weight. And now, after throwing the ball, he gets back to the movement layer smoothly. Now, I wanted him to shoot various targets, so I made a game object reference and a camera reference. Then, if there is a left click, I send a ray from the camera which collides with objects and checks if it is an enemy to assign it to the target reference. Then, if there is a target, save its position in a vector 3 and change its Y position to an average height and turn the player towards that target before throwing the ball. After that, set the target reference to null. Now, assign the enemy tag to the dummy and duplicate it to make an enemy team. And this is the result for now. The player can shoot at multiple enemies, but there is still a lot more to do. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next devlog. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. And if there is an enemy, then assign the tag to the